Aloha everybody and welcome. This is my presentation on foot zoning for depression and anxiety. I don't know anybody who hasn't either dealt with some kind of mental illness themselves at some point or whose really close family, friends, loved one has suffered from that kind of an illness or struggle. So I think this presentation is relevant and timely for almost everybody. As we start and go into this, I wanted to share something with you that I thought was funny when I first saw it. Oh, wait, there we go. So I don't know if you can see it. If you're on a phone, it might be kind of small. Funny little meme reading 4,000 years of medicine, 2000 BC, here, eat this root. And then it goes on. Oh, you can't see it? Can you see that one? No? Oh, that is good to know. Okay, we are experiencing technical difficulties. I am so grateful for help with technical difficulties. You know, doing full screen is so much better for the participants, but it's not better if it doesn't switch screens for me. Are you seeing that next slide now? Yeah, okay. So I'm sorry, you get to look at that beautiful bar thingamajiggy on the top. I can't get rid of it. Oh well. So 4,000 years of medicine. Here, eat this root, 2000 BC. 1000 AD. The root is heathen. Here, say this prayer. And then it just moves on, right? Prayer is superstitious. Here, drink this potion. Potion is snake oil. Swallow this pill. The pill is ineffective. Here, take this antibiotic. 2000 AD. The antibiotic is poison. Here, eat this root. And we've kind of come full circle, right? Now, it's funny because it's kind of true. There are a lot, right? But where I sit, I kind of think, why not do it all? Prayer is really powerful. Herbs, roots, right? The things that come out of the earth can be so healing. There is also a place for medicine and surgery and the wonders of modern science and Western medicine. I'm a big fan of everything that helps with healing. So moving on from there, that's my little intro, but here's my friendly reminder. I'm not a doctor. I am not a psychologist. I'm just here to share what I've learned. I'm here to share maybe a few experiences if we have time. I have what I think are some pretty fun discoveries in the world of foot zoning and mental health, because that's been my world for about 4 years now. By watching this presentation, you agree not to sue me. So please enjoy the information that I'm giving you. I hope it's helpful. I hope you use it. You can share it. But if you need a doctor, go get one. And this is just a free advice, so you get what you pay for, right? Don't think this will solve all your problems, but maybe it will help with some of them. Okay, glad we're on the same page. Let's move on. Here's just an overview of what we're gonna do here today. I'm gonna share with you the way I see mental health issues. It may be different than the way you've seen it or heard it described. Then we're gonna go to like my top 3 tips, just really fast. And then we'll get on to kind of the meat of the presentation, which is some breakthrough research in the world of mental health you haven't heard about, and then my favorite pressure point. So for those of you not familiar with foot zoning, shoot me a message later and we can get you some more information about that. I'm gonna move forward assuming that you understand there are pressure points in the feet that can have a healing effect on the body. And we're gonna move on from there. You can be a beginner. You don't have to be a foot zoner to understand what's in this presentation, but that is a little bit of a basic working understanding that we have moving forward. Okay, so next. It's a broken pot. Let's talk about things that break. I liked this picture a lot better than x-rays of broken bones, okay? That's why this picture's here. But I wanted to talk about that. In the body, we can have things that break. Bones legit break under too much pressure. It hurts like crazy. And we all kind of know the procedure of fixing it, right? You get it back aligned, stick it in a cast, moving on. It's also pretty easy to diagnose. It's really physically painful, and it's obvious when it's been immobilized and it's in a good space for healing. There are some times where people have broken bones and not known it. They think it's a sprain and it just doesn't get better. It can go on for months and months and be a big, big problem where if they had found out about it right when it happened, the healing process would have been a lot easier. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this frowny face. Okay, what happens when your smile goes away? Okay, maybe there's some kind of trauma and it's gone and you just can't get it back. But the thing about mental health is that it often creeps up on us slowly. It's the effect of stress building up over time, and it's not always a really easy thing to even discern. So it can be like that broken bone that goes unnoticed. And it can be really tricky to heal if the person doesn't even recognize it themselves. Also, the mind is such a beautiful, complicated thing. Your mental health isn't housed entirely in your brain. Your whole body can affect your mental health, the state of your gut health and your circulatory system and your lymphatic system. This all comes into place. So honestly, having depression or anxiety, OCD, PTSD, bipolar, schizophrenia, you name it, all the stuff, it's really complicated. And healing it is not as easy as taking an x-ray, getting it set, and putting it in a cast, and poof, you'll be better in 6 weeks, right? That's what makes mental health stuff so tricky. So I see it differently. I think that for our purposes today, we should make a totally different comparison. So let me see if this works. Thumbs up if you can hear what I'm gonna hear in just a second. Yeah. You can hear it. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna turn mine down. Hopefully you know what that song is, okay? The Greatest Showman. I love that show. Oh, wait, I'm moving the slides all over the place. Okay. And honestly, this is a much better comparison. Mental health is not like a broken arm. It's more like a circus. It is so complicated. There's stuff going on all the time when you're awake, when you're sleeping. And it's constantly changing in response to just a million different things. When people are looking for a magic pill that can fix their problem, when it comes to depression and anxiety, that's really rare. You're not going to find an answer without any effort on your part. Because again, it's like a circus. You could fix one of those little circus members, but the other ones might still have problems that need help. So you might feel a little better, but it may not hold up in every situation, or it may not hold up forever. That doesn't mean mental health issues aren't fixable, though. I am so stubborn on this one. Like, even if it's a complicated circus up there in your head, it can heal. I am absolutely convinced the body is made to heal and function in a really good way. So you just have to find the right tools, and things will improve from there. So that's my take on mental health. One of the most common symptoms of depression is that it feels hopeless. It feels like it's been this way forever and it's going to be this way forever. But that really isn't true. So my dream is that people who have mental health issues can feel that hope, that they really can find the tools they need and understand they don't have to feel that way forever. Even if you don't know what's wrong or how to fix it right now, you can look and search, and tomorrow you might find answers. The next day, it just is a building process. It's kind of a line upon line thing. And I wanted to share my 3 top tips for helping that. happen. So here we go. Tip number 1, measure it. This is so important. Just like with a broken bone, you take an x-ray so you can see what's going on. You have to do that with your head, okay? There are a lot of different like depression surveys where you can see kind of how are you feeling? How depressed are you? Because there's a huge range. My favorite is the Burns Depression Checklist. I think you can search and find that on YouTube, or better, get his book Feeling Good and find it. It's in there at the beginning. You have to have a baseline. So whatever survey you find or whatever you find to use there to measure it, even if you're just writing down how you feel. Okay, right now, today, and over the past week, maybe how high am I feeling sad? Like put it on a scale from 1 to 100. How depressive am I? How sad? How angry? How hopeless? It doesn't do well to dwell on these negative things, but it is really helpful to get that baseline and measure it so that you can track your progress. And if you have some ups and downs, you can still figure out that you were feeling better. So when you go down again, if you're depressive again later and you feel like it's been this way forever and it's going to be this way forever, there on paper you have evidence that, oh no, 2 weeks ago, actually I was feeling really good. I forgot about that, because you will. It's a symptom of depression that you just kind of forget everything good in the world. It sucks. So if you were in a massive car accident, you wouldn't walk away thinking, I can just think my way out of this, all right? If you have severe depression, you need help. Please seek it out. Tell somebody, find a doctor, a psychologist. They are so good at diagnosing things and helping it heal. Foot zoning is a wonderful tool. I recommend it highly as a help for healing this. And sometimes it is kind of a healer on its own. I've seen that happen. But it seems to be more of a temporary thing. If you really want permanent healing from these issues, then you have to get professional help for it. And own it. That's part of this, measuring it. You've got to really own that this is where you are, this is how you're feeling, accept that it can and will change. So I love that song too. This Is Me is fantastic representation of kind of how it is. It may be stormy right now, but you're not going to be able to find your way out of the storm if you're ignoring that there is a storm, right? If you're sitting there going, la, 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 I'm fine. I haven't really smiled with my eyes in 6 months, but la, 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 I'm fine. I'll get better. I can snap out of it. No, don't do that, right? Okay, moving on. Tip number 2, find tools. There's so many tools. Yay. Western medicine has awesome tools. Cognitive behavioral therapy has been proven in research to be just as effective as medication. And medication has been proven to be the most effective if it is combined with therapy. So I don't make generalizations all that often, or at least I try not to, but I feel very confident in making the generalization that if you are on some kind of antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, something like that, designed to help with mental health issues, then you should also be meeting with a very good therapist that's a good fit for you, okay? Because medication, I think, can be a great bridge, kind of a crutch to lean on to get you to a healthy place where your brain can function really well on its own. That's my perspective. That's my take on it. I have done a lot of homework on this, but again, I'm not a doctor, so listen to your body. Tip number 3. As you look for different tools and you find things that are helpful for mental health issues, I wish someone had told me this earlier. Your own body is a really good tool to help you kind of know which tools are going to be the most effective. So if there's tension in your body that you don't even know about, and when you think about getting a foot zone, everything in your body goes, oh, that would be so nice. and you relax, and all of a sudden you go, oh, wow, that feels good. If you're aware of your body, if you're kind of taking inventory, then you'll know that's kind of your body telling you, hey, let's do that. Same thing with essential oils and supplements, and meeting with maybe a naturopathic doctor or a homeopathic doctor or a psychologist. You know, you meet with them the first time and you might be able to know, like, oh, this is a good fit. Listen to your body. It's such a good tool. All right, moving on to the more meaty stuff, okay? Speaking of professionals who can help with mental illnesses, there was a neuroscientist, I believe she's in California, but don't quote me on that. So her name is Dr. Helen Mayberg, and she is one of my heroes. I love what she did to help figure out what's going on in this circus in your head. And in fact, she inspired me to use The Greatest Showman throughout this presentation, because she actually said, she used the term ringleader. Okay, in 1999, so we're almost 20 years ago, she published a groundbreaking study where she identified the ringleader in the circuits in the brain that control mood. All right, so we got Hugh Jackman right there in the middle of the head reminding us that it's kind of a circus. She even called him the ringleader. So this is how she did it. She looked at hundreds and thousands of brain scans, kind of like this, where you've got people with no depression and people with depression. And these brain scans showed measurable differences, right? But every person is so different. It was hard to find something that was holding true for everyone across the board, right? So if you're trying to find something going on in depressed brains that's not going on in the people who do not have depression, there are a lot of things that it could be. And again, it took her quite a while, but eventually she figured out there was something in common with everybody across the board. It was measurably different in depressed patients versus those who weren't. And that's the spot right there. So you can see on the right over here, this part of the brain, it's got that red, it's measurably more active there. That means increased blood flow, more neurons firing in that area. Over here in the person without depression, way less. And sometimes it was even more dramatic, right? And the person without depression, boy, okay, they're getting a lot more energy up in the frontal cortex over here. The important takeaway, though, is that it was a measurable difference in that specific area across the board. So 4 years after she published that study, she was ready to try something no one had tried before. Before we talk about the procedure she came up with, let me talk a little bit more. So she had hypothesized that in patients who don't improve with other treatments, like therapy or medication, whatever, if the depression wasn't lifting, the problem was in this part of the brain. The problem was in a part of the brain called Area 25. It doesn't even have a real name like the pituitary or the hypothalamus. It's just part of the map of the brain called Brodmann's Area 25. And so she guessed that it was like stuck in overdrive, basically. It wouldn't calm down. So her hypothesis was, if you could figure out a way to get it to calm down, to force it into a calmer, cooler state, then the person would feel better. So here's Brodmann's map. Well, it's not complete, but there's the basic gist of it, okay? Area 25 is right there where the arrow is pointing. And yeah, right over here. It's right in the middle, so it is also on the right hemisphere. So both hemispheres have this little part of the brain, Area 25. Let's talk a little bit more about it, because it's kind of important that you understand what it is and what it impacts. And then we're going to talk about how to zone it in a little tiny bit here. Going back to another picture of the brain. I wanted you to see how energy travels through area 25. You get these messages going back and forth through all these other important parts of the brain, up to the frontal cortex especially. That's where your rational thought goes. That's where our perceptions are coming in, our understanding of the world around us comes in through there intellectually, the ability to have higher grown-up functions. That's in this part of the brain over here. And our feeling centers are over here. That's more of a midbrain thing. So when we convert information into feelings, boom, this guy's in the crossroads right here. And I think that's why she called Area 25 the ringleader of our ability to control mood. So I also wanted to point out, well, I guess I just kind of did. Frontal cortex, midbrain, it's right in the crossroads right there. So it is just positioned like primo real estate in the mind right there. So where if it's kind of having an issue, boom, that's going to affect all these other things right here. The pituitary gland and the amygdala, that's where a lot of feelings like fear and stuff are processing. The hippocampus has to do with processing memories. So when you're talking about PTSD and memories that are like not healing, this part of the brain is definitely either being affected or it is affecting what's going on in those other parts of the brain. Let's take a look at what kind of it looks like so you can kind of see that. The brain didn't match quite up perfectly with that other slide, but I just kind of want to give you an idea of how much this ringmaster is kind of calling shots and sending messages all over the brain. Very important. One of the other things that I wanted to explain is that Area 25 has a really cool job. It is supposed to kind of keep everything at like a baseline homeostasis. It's the like calm down part of the brain that controls those feelings. So when you get really excited about something, oh, and you're totally stoked and it's a happy, happy feeling, eventually you're gonna come down, right? It's gonna work out of your system, and that's because Area 25 is sending messages saying, okay, you can come down now. You've had your fun, let's go back to normal. Same thing when you get sad. If you've got a deep grief, something tragic happened or whatever, or even just a sad movie you're watching and it's like, oh, it's so beautiful, okay? Area 25 is the part that says, okay, shh, okay, you can calm down now. Let's come back up. You've gone down and you've had your cry. It's almost like the bungee cord that pulls you back up to a state of normal where you can think and you can adult. All right. Let's see what else. Fear. All right. So with anxiety, the feeling of panic and dread and doom impending, Area 25 is supposed to help bring you back out of that. Okay. You squish the spider, your life has been saved. Whew. Now we can move on, right? In people with anxiety issues, it's like Area 25 is not working. It's tapped out. And let me kind of give you another scenario to help you understand why it is that it works this way. Look back to the last time you had a really, really nasty flu. Okay. And think about how you felt emotionally with that nasty, nasty flu. When it's really bad, there's that feeling that you just can't move. You just can't get out of bed. You just lay there feeling, ugh, awful. You might be really short-tempered. Some people are so awful to be around when they're sick because they're just, nothing is ever good enough, right? Everyone has experienced this to some extent, and some illnesses are kind of different than others, and some people act different than others. I know a lot of moms that can just mom up and deal with it when they're not feeling well. Yeah. It might be because they're used to overriding this Area 25. So let me explain. You feel that way because Area 25 is inflamed. You're fighting off the flu and your body says, we need to just rest. So what's the best way to get a person to do that? You get them to feel miserable, like they can't get out of bed and they don't want to move and they have no desire to do anything at all. Well, they're going to lay there and fight off that virus and get better faster. So it has actually a good function. It's miserable. It's not very fun, but it's doing its job. You're going to lay there and get over your virus and feel better faster than you would if you were to just keep going, right? And actually, for a lot of colds and flus and stuff, if you can just lay down and rest at the beginning, you'll get over it so much faster. Again, I'm not a doctor. That's just personal experience, right? So that's what Area 25 does. It's like a function. It's supposed to work that way. And it's supposed to be temporary. I hate to use that word supposed to, but like it's designed so that we don't have to live in this state of misery and woe and I hate this and I can't move and I don't want to do anything, right? It does have this built-in program where the inflammation will go down. The ringmaster gets up off the floor and says, okay, back to business. The show's on the road, okay? But really it's the ringmaster that calls those shots. And if the ringmaster has tapped out, then the show kind of doesn't go on. And so for some people, for whatever reason, Area 25 gets inflamed and they get all the glories of a miserable flu without actually fighting off a virus, okay? It's not fun. It really isn't. Depression is awful. Ugh. I'd rather have a broken bone. And I can say that because I did actually break something finally for the first time 2 years ago. So let me go back over to my slides. I just wanted you to understand that aspect of what Area 25 does because I think it's pretty cool. So Dr. Mayberg had this great idea. She said, okay, if it's malfunctioning, then what if we put one of those Neato Speedo deep brain stimulators and we played with Area 25. Now, these had been in place for a little while, helping people with different kinds of nerve-related disorders. So they had put these inside people's brains with these awesome little pacemakers down here. But it was for things like tremors that were uncontrollable, right? They would put a little electrode in there and zap the part of the brain that was making the tremors and it would stop and calm down. So Dr. Mayberg was just hypothesizing you could stick an electrode in on Area 25 and hopefully improve the situation. So with people who had severe depression that was unresponsive to treatments, we're talking people who've been depressed for 20 years and nothing's worked. And they're suicidal. And it's really difficult, right? That kind of depression. She was like, what can we do to help these people? Let's try it. And then quote from her, she actually said, for all we knew, we were going to activate those circuits and actually make people feel worse, okay? She didn't really know for sure that it was going to work. So those brave 6 volunteers that volunteered for that first round, they were profoundly suffering and had no other options, really. It's tragic. So they wanted to try it, and it worked. It actually worked for these people who hadn't smiled in 20 years. I'm sure she was really relieved. It has a decent success rate. And definitely for those that it works really, really well. It doesn't have a 100% success rate, but those for whom this procedure works, it's not a placebo effect when it really is actually working. But they don't really know why. Even after, so the first time that procedure was done was in 2004, or maybe 2005. So it's been a while. They've done a lot more since then. And even with all the research she's continued to do, a recent quote from her said, to be brutally honest, we have no idea how this works. So rather than drill a couple holes in your skull and stick an electrode down into your brain, I'm kind of thinking, what if we could just zone it, right? So going back to what I alluded to in the very beginning, we have all these pressure points in our feet that we can manipulate to facilitate better healing and health. Why not just rub that pressure point and add that to our foot zone, teach people how to do it themselves, and they can get the benefits of having an electrode in their head without actually having to do that. I mean, that sounded like a good idea to me, right? Yes, sounded like a great idea. So that's what I'm here to teach. I think it would be awesome if we could have this one simple pressure point that can help people to get immediate relief when depression or anxiety is severe. It can also help with long-term healing. I would actually really love to get my hands on people for whom that deep brain stimulator isn't working, because I think it likely that we could use foot zoning to help that work. Remember, foot zoning is a tool to help facilitate greater healing. So for long-term healing, I think this can be profound. But again, you want to go to a professional. And then also, it can be something that a person could do for continued maintenance. If you work stuff out in therapy and you're feeling better, if you start to feel kind of yucky, it may be that Area 25 is getting inflamed just out of habit. If you can help rub those pressure points and get the message to your body to get that to cool off and calm down faster, then yay. Okay, and I got to tell you a little bit of a story. So we'll get out of the slides again. All right, so preparing for this conference coming up on Saturday, I haven't ever done anything like that. So it was a little bit intimidating. And as I'm putting these slideshows together and trying to plan my stuff, it would be overwhelming sometimes. I'm like, oh, I've never done this. I've only been zoning for 5 years, and some of these people have been zoning for a lot longer, right? Well, I just would find that pressure point for Area 25, and honestly, within moments, the stress would just go back down and I could go back to work. It was really almost comical, but again, super helpful. So yay. That is my funny story. I think it can be great. So it's very simple. We'll just breeze through this. Here's a picture of the bottom of your right foot. And I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of faint. This part right here shows where the map of the cross section of the brain is kind of landing in the top of this big toe on the pad, like the big pad. This area here would be brainstem down through the neck, okay? Spinal fluid, that kind of stuff. Many thanks to my teacher, Stephanie Markham, for letting me borrow these slides from her Foot Zone course, available at healthyfoothold.com. So where is Area 25 then? Well, here's the pituitary gland, the limbic system, the pineal gland. These parts of the feet you can massage and rub to get those messages through a little faster. We're just gonna add Area 25, which would be right there. So that would be the part of the foot that you would rub. And intention is pretty powerful. Honestly, it really is more about what you think you're hitting than the actual pressure point on the foot for the most part, because these signals are so small, there's no way that with your fingers you could get exactly that pressure point, right? You can kind of just dig around in there with your hands. It's a little bit off center. The actual center of the toe would be right here. So you're going to go towards the little toes a little bit that direction. It's to the left if you're looking at a person's foot, and it's to your right if you're rubbing your own foot. You're aiming for this spot right here. And that's it. Now, it's not always easy, especially in public settings, to get down there and rub your big toe. If you're starting to have anxiety in a big group and you want to get that to calm down, it may be sort of awkward to take off your shoe and be like, hang on a second. Okay, right. So thankfully, we have pressure points in our thumbs, you guys. Hands have these same nerve endings and meridians and all these same pressure points. It's a little complicated trying to translate some of this stuff from the soles of the feet to the palm of the hand. But for brain stuff in the tip of the thumb there, it's pretty easy. So there it is. And that's the pressure point that I was using, as I mentioned, when I was starting to kind of get a little bit overwhelmed with this presentation. There it is. Your new best friend. Super helpful. Here's what it looks like on the left foot. Da-dun-dun, da-dun-dun. Same thing. It's going to be just slightly the other direction. Again, you find the middle of the toe, like the middle of the pad of the foot there, and go a little bit over towards the little toes. And there it is. So if you were in my class on Saturday, we'd zone it. It's gonna be really fun to practice. Since I can't really be there with you to do that, you get to just play with it on your own. You can always write me if you have questions or whatever. But that's it. It's pretty simple, really. There is a difference, I should say, between getting a whole foot zone and just playing with a couple different pressure points. When you get a whole foot zone, you're going to maximize health for the whole body. And the whole body operates as a whole. So there are a lot of things that interact with each other and contribute to our well-being or our falling apart. So trying to find just a couple pressure points and hoping that they'll help. Like for some people, it can be extremely effective, but for other people, they need to have some other things in place for that to work optimally. Okay, so I want to just make sure people understand this is a really helpful pressure point, but it is going to be even more helpful if you have had a whole foot zone recently, because things will be better aligned. So I have also noticed that myself, honestly, when I try to play with these pressure points and get that same calm down effect in my brain, it works so much better if I've had a foot zone recently as compared to not. And I sort of know what I'm doing a little bit with this. So I imagine if you're totally new to this, don't be disappointed if you're not seeing like, oh, it's magic. Don't read too much into it, but don't toss it out either. Where was I gonna go with this? Let's see. I think we'll just kind of go back and review a little bit of what we've done so far. So let's go back to the beginning and yeah, see, where did we start? First, we reframed the way we looked at mental illness, right? It's not really as simple as a broken bone, but it can heal. So you kind of have to just own your circus. We talked about my top 3 tips, measuring it so you have a baseline to work with. Find tools, stay open-minded, and listen to your body to figure out what's really working and what you should look into. Please remember that there's hope for this. People who have had struggles with this for years and years, there may be tools available now that there weren't available when you started. So it's amazing. We live just in an incredible time where science can do things not even dreamed of 30 years ago, and then also where we have this huge open forum where science and alternative, holistic, natural stuff can come together and help each other. And that can be so powerful. So we learned about Area 25 and how it can kind of help your brain's ringmaster do its job properly by zoning that pressure point. So this is my hope. My hope is that anybody on a journey to heal mental health stuff will have some extra tools and some knowledge they didn't have before, so that they can be feeling better from now on. And I'm grateful for your time in watching this. I'm grateful for feedback if you have any for me. Again, feel free to ask me questions. My email address is happilysinging@yahoo.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.